such opportunities come very rarely, like, in the history of technology, where the underlying core technology doesn't move as fast, but then people are trying to build creative products on top of that technology. So they're really trying to push technology to its limits. And now we have entered a phase where technology is just, surged further by like 10x, 50x. And we're all thinking about what are the most phenomenal, best products that we can build to really push technology, because we are living in a world where now intelligence is commoditized. Just saying that, makes me think, is it even real? Because in the previous phase with the internet, knowledge was commoditized. You can look up any fact, you can know anything that needs to be known. With the phase before that, compute was commoditized, right? Calculations are practically free or really cheap for that matter. Now we're entering a phase where intelligence is commoditized. Bringing all of that capability to our RIAs, to advisors, is just super exciting in a way that really helps Altruist achieve its mission.
Welcome back to another episode of The Advisor Journey. And this episode is special because we've had a lot of advisors ask about our new product, Hazel. So who other to bring on than the Hazel team, Fernando and Gokul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Amazing. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to all the advisors that are watching here today? Fernando, how about you start?
Yeah, so my name is Fernando San Martin. I'm originally from Spain, but I've lived for about a decade in the US now, mostly in San Francisco Bay Area. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I've worked in the finance industry for the last maybe 10, 15 years at this point. Various companies, different stages, from Capital One to tiny startups that I co-founded. The most recent one of those being Time, which I co-founded with Daniel Lanz in December of 2024. We went through the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator program in the Bay Area, and I can talk more about the solutions we were building for advisors. But to make a long story short, we worked on the company for about a year, got in touch with Altruist, with Gokul here and other team members, and decided that it makes sense to work together. So as of the last 3 months, we've rebranded what Time was into Hazel, and we publicly launched, I think it's 3 days ago now.
Amazing. I was at the Future Proof launch, and you and Stephen Kane did a phenomenal job. Gokul, I've been knowing you for a long time. You are an Altruist OG. I've been seeing your name in the Slack for, it seems like 5 or 6 years at this point. Why don't you introduce yourselves to the advisors that are watching?
I'm Gokul. I'm currently based out of San Francisco, but I've been at Altruist. I'm a dinosaur by Altruist terms. Like, I've been here for 6.5 years. I was the first employee on the investing side of things. My background is as a quant, so I was before this briefly worked at JP Morgan as a quant, applying machine learning to algorithmic trading and investment and risk management. And before that, in what seems like a different life at this point, I was an aerospace engineer by training. So I used to apply a lot of machine learning in aerospace engineering. So I've just seen like how a lot of advanced math and statistics has been used in different domains, and over the last few years in finance. And yeah, excited to be here working at Altruist. It's such a great moment, especially with something like Hazel.
Yeah, I want to ask this question before we sort of dive into Hazel. How does an electrical engineer and an aerospace engineer find themselves working in financial services? What's the story, Fernando, for you?
I guess it's the market is the short answer to that question. No, I think for me, I didn't start working on the finance industry at the beginning. I actually worked in telecommunications for a while. I was working at a company called Nexmo, later acquired by Vonage and then Ericsson. But we did SMS similar to Twilio and similar products. I landed into this industry by a passion for personal finance. When I first got to the US coming from Spain, I was fascinated by the idea of how does one build wealth? How does one build maybe even a legacy and achieve financial freedom? I was devouring any book that I could read on the topic. How do you invest? What does invest mean? What is risk? What is reward? And that's what got me into this industry. I first started at Capital One, great company, by the way, 60 million clients in the US. We did a lot of work with credit cards, underwriting. I got to understand also the other side of maybe investing as a company, right? Which bets do you make? And one thing led to the other. After that, I helped build a small bank in Brazil. Very different story there. Worked in treasury management at a company called Trovata. And then I've worked in accounting and more recently helping financial advisors. So that's the journey. I think it stems out of a passion of personal finance and how does one build wealth at the end of the day? How does one achieve that financial freedom?
And for you, Gokul, aerospace to working in fintech. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So many years ago, when I began aerospace engineering, I just loved physics, math, astronomy, rockets, and things like that. I wanted to become an academic, but after spending some time doing that, I was a bit disillusioned by academia. Nothing to take away from it, but it wasn't clear if it was the most impactful way to kind of live my life. So I was like, I'm good at math. I can write code. What do I do? And then that's when I thought quant finance. Quant finance has a history of hiring people from physics and aerospace engineering going back to the 80s. So I was like, let me try that out. And then I briefly worked at JP Morgan, but I was disillusioned a little bit by working at a larger firm, and then Altruist reached out to me and it was like, we would like to work with someone, who can help start up our investing and, algorithmic investing division. And I joined Altruist, and then I became a product manager and now working on AI, synthesizing pretty much everything I've learned, across my profession and my career.
I gotta say, you two are probably the two smartest guys to ever be on the podcast. I'll add Jason Wink to that equation. But let's talk about Hazel a little bit, right? You said you went through Y Combinator. Being a San Francisco native myself, one of the few left, you always hear stories about Y Combinator, right? People go in, the city's buzzing with ideas on what could be built and what ideas will change the world, essentially, right? So when you get into Y Combinator, I always talk about finding big problems and making big solutions that have a market pull. Talk to me about why you thought Hazel was the big idea to go after in this market.
Absolutely, yeah. We started, so with Daniel Lance back in May of 2024, we started, he also shares the same passion. By the way, he also comes from Capital One, and he shares that passion that I mentioned before on personal finances. We've both been avid users of platforms like, if I can say names, Monarch Money or Empowered. And we thought we wanted to do something on the consumer side. We wanted to help people achieve that financial freedom that we were building for ourselves. We quickly realized in talking to Y Combinator, to Dalton Caldwell specifically, that going direct to consumer is very challenging. Yeah. So we said, what is the next what is the business that helps these people achieve that financial freedom? And that was financial advisors. We did a bit of research. We saw the famous or infamous Kitch's map on technology for wealth managers. And what you see there are hundreds of point solutions that they're all in the low price range. They don't talk to each other really well. And a lot of them are actually a decade plus old. So the ethos, the frameworks, the paradigms under which they were built have shifted dramatically today. Just by pure technology evolution, but also by AI evolution in the last 3-4 years. So Altruist was actually one of the companies that, in talking to Dalton Caldwell, when he sent us one of the articles that he found online about what we should build, he was like, you guys should take a look at this company. They seem to be doing something great. At the time,
really, back then?
Yes, back then.
Right.
I have the email somewhere in my inbox. And, I didn't think much of it. I didn't know about Altruist at the time. I did a bit of research and I was like, wow, indeed, they just got that round of financing. I think this is about a year ago. And we told ourselves, look, there's probably a wedge into this market now by condensing some of these solutions that, in our opinion, should belong together, especially now that the barriers to entry are lower with AI. And why don't we find that wedge and we start talking to advisors and building software for them? So
talk to me about the talking to advisors part, right? Because I feel like as a product manager and as somebody that's founding a company, you have to talk to your client base to see what they want versus what you think they want. So when you're having those initial conversations with advisors, like what were they asking for, maybe without even asking?
No, it's an excellent point. Advisors in talking and I guess selling to an extent to advisors, we found out that a lot of them are type A personalities. They're extroverted. They like these social gatherings, and they are very willing to share their opinions. I would say it's important to listen to what they have to say. It's also important to maybe not do necessarily what they say they want immediately. Sometimes if you listen to them and you act immediately on what they say, you'll build another point solution for them right away, right after that meeting. And that's not what maybe that's a short-term solution that for the survival of the company you want to do, but you want to keep that long-term perspective of why did you start on this journey and what is the fundamental thesis you're trying to prove. So yeah, in talking to them, we started on the time side. We started with a note taker. That was creating a lot of buzz. Even today, a majority of advisors haven't yet adopted one, and it's I can tell you as a product manager now at Altruist, a note taker changes the way I operate. I have probably in the order of 20 meetings per week. I talk to 50 plus people. I don't necessarily remember every single sentence and every topic we discuss. So a note taker is extremely useful, and we use that as a wedge to help them on billing, on client onboarding, on document parsing, even providing them with a client portal. So
amazing. Gokul, you spent a lot of time working on this product, and I'm sure differentiating us from other solutions is important. What would you say the differentiators are from Hazel and maybe other platforms or products that might be on the market?
Absolutely. So I think note-taking is absolutely table stakes at this point, right? Like a lot of what AI can do uniquely is tap into the unstructured data that as human beings we create in literally every single interaction we have in our lives. And there are countless such interactions that we have both in professional and personal sense. So that's absolutely table stakes. But taking a step back, if you look at the core of what the advisor's problem is, right? Like this is a statistic I came across years ago and it still blows my mind. I think about it almost every other day, which is roughly 45% of advisors' time is spent in middle and back office tasks across 6 different tools. And this is like incredible to hear that it's still happening this way. So what Hazel is more than anything, a general purpose AI assistant for financial advisors. It can tap into their CRM, the notes, their tasks. It can tap into their advisor's email. It can tap into their calendar. It also has access to the web, and you can upload documents. So it's really a way for advisors to use Hazel to interact with all their data and synthesize outcomes from that data. Yeah. So that's really what we're going after with Hazel here, which is to build a general purpose AI assistant that can supercharge the advisor's workflow.
What do you think the value or the material impacts from using Hazel will be on the advisor business, right? Back in the day, I mean, I had Michael Kitces on this podcast before, and he said it took like 12 people to generate $1 million in revenue when he was a financial advisor. And I feel like that number is shrinking and shrinking quickly. So what do you think some of the benefits or the value to the advisor are from using a platform like Hazel?
I think it's multifold. Like, for instance, the first thing is, as a part of doing our job, running our business, etc., there are things that we need to do that we may not really enjoy, which sometimes ends up being the majority of what we have to do, versus there are things that are absolutely important, but that we also love to do, right? What Hazel can do is abstract away the things that are really important, but that you don't enjoy doing. Right? So one thing we see is early adopters see an increase in satisfaction, like advisor teams, especially those working on the paraplanning side or on admin tasks, really can expect an increase in satisfaction in the way they work because they spend more time doing things that they love. That's one aspect of it. But apart from that, there's of course, retention, right? You can use Hazel to surface very interesting insights about what your clients are up to that you might not have had a chance to, know before AI, because it can parse all transcripts, it can look at existing notes, it can connect seemingly unrelated things to identify that one important thing that can create a delightful experience for your client. And of course, on the as a way to grow your business, right? Like, and this is something we saw an advisor do, who's actually using Hazel today, is they look for, across meetings that they or their team are having with their clients, they're looking at touch points where they sense clients expressing satisfaction,
Right.
happiness. And they use that as a way to see or to track if Hazel can send out like an automated, like request a referral in the email, in a follow-up email. So that's a direct way that, you can use actually the creativity and the unstructured intelligence that Hazel brings to the table to help you actually grow your business.
There's been a lot of burnout amongst the advisor community. And I feel like if advisors lean into tools like Hazel, right, maybe we reduce that burnout and have just advisor retention. So that solo advisor that's doing all the administrative work, doing the client relations, right, and trying to scale at the same time, stays in the business a little longer because now they have less things that they might have to do on a day-to-day basis. And when I think about enterprise businesses, you are essentially supercharging your best employees to do their work with more precision, accuracy, and more efficiently as well. So I think that top to bottom, big firm, small firm, medium-sized firm, there's a use case at every level for Hazel. I wanted to talk about security and trust, because that's one thing that advisors can be a little skeptical about when using client data, inputting it into systems and LLMs, right? So what's different about Hazel when we talk about the security of client data?
Yeah, maybe I'm happy to take that one, at least take a stab at it. We totally understand the concern, right? For an advisor that has his whole book of business on their CRM and maybe their email client, that's the lifeblood of their business. If that ever gets exposed, the implications will be dramatic. I don't know what it would entail exactly, but certainly dramatic. Maybe you have to close down your business. We take that very seriously, and we understand the repercussions. And I think this is where Altruist, the core custodial platform that has experience in dealing with this private, very sensitive information, came in very handy. We are applying the same standards that we apply on the custodial side when it comes to technology and infrastructure on the Hazel side. Mm-hmm. So if you're already working with us or if you're entertaining us, just know that is the standard that we are applying. Furthermore, what we see today is that advisors already use AI in their day-to-day. I would venture to say that two out of three advisors out there, if not more, are using AI in their day-to-day. Often that's in the form of maybe a free version of ChatGPT, or maybe they're paying the $20 subscription of Anthropic. And the reality is that the standards on those solutions, particularly the free ones, and certainly even maybe in the case for the $20 subscription ones, is that you're not in control of your information. And so if that is what you're using today, moving to Hazel will be a significant step up in terms of security and privacy of your information. To be clear, in no uncertain terms, we do not train any model on the information that you as an advisor put on Hazel. The data stays in private clouds from well-known vendors such as Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Cloud. And we have enterprise agreements with these companies that are public and audited that guarantee us that the data is encrypted, both while in transit and at rest. Not even the engineers of these companies can look up the information that you're putting into the systems, for example. And we're also using the enterprise version of the large language model providers. Mm-hmm. And that means that, again, those engineers cannot look. We legally own the input and output of these models. And when you're using Hazel, that should not be privacy and security should not be a concern. That's covered. Worry about growing your business and working on your clients, but not on the security end.
Yeah, we just came from Future Proof, and I was talking to a huge advisor, maybe $1 billion in assets managed just in his small firm of, I want to say 3 advisors maybe, right? So he's already using technology, but at his sort of shop, which he's under, they have to do vendor compliance checks, right? And the biggest concern about some of these big shops is like, is it compliant? Can it pass these tests? Is our data at risk? So I'm sure advisors that are watching today are gonna get some peace to know that everything you said is safe, right? They can use it and their client's data isn't at risk. I wanted you to take us through like an advisor using Hazel. What should they expect? Should they say, hey, I want to give this a try? What should they expect? Give us a workflow of Hazel so they can kind of imagine that in their minds. And I'm sure we'll cut in some screen recordings of this as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll try to be brief, but the first thing you should do is you should go into hazel.ai and you should click on that button to create your account. You'll be able to do so using your Altruist credentials if you already have some. Otherwise, Google or Microsoft, whatever you use. Once you've created your account, you'll have at the very minimum 30-day trial. You can also invite your team members during that trial, and we highly encourage that you do so because the full value of Hazel unveils when you bring your team members. Once you've done that, what you'll do is you'll connect your CRM. We support the major ones. You'll also connect to, again, your Google and, your calendar and your email clients. And we use that to join any meetings that you have and perform that note-taking function that Gokul was mentioning before was table stakes, but also to look at your inbox. What you should expect once you have completed this onboarding, which should only take 5 to 10 minutes really, is that you first of all will see at what we call the today page, and that's a prioritization of your day. We take your most important emails, the meetings that you're having today, and also any task that's high priority coming from your CRM. And we present that only to you, not to your firm, but to you when you first land into Hazel. For emails, we do research and we try to help you answer those emails. For meetings, we help you prepare to come with an agenda. And for tasks, we present them to you, as I said, linked to your CRM. Once you do that, you can go into the different areas of the application. For meetings, as I said, we help you prepare and send maybe that reminder email. Once the meeting is done, we help you identify the task that came out as a result of that meeting, maybe the notes, maybe a follow-up email. All of that is covered within the app. And I would say the brilliant feature of Hazel is it's almost too simplistic when you first look at it and you're like, what's really the power behind this? Is that ChatGPT-like interface where it's deceivingly simple, but it has the context of your firm. And by context, I mean all of your CRM contacts, your emails, your meetings, even documents that you can upload. We have access to all of that. So when you ask a question, think of it not as just a ChatGPT that may provide you with a generic answer, but think of it as a highly intelligent and capable person that's going to do research to answer that question for you. So when you're asking with whom I haven't spoken maybe in the last few weeks, or who has mentioned, I had this happen at Future Proof. We were describing the capabilities of chat, and one advisor mentioned that he remembered talking to someone about, I think it was an insurance policy. Mm-hmm. He thought he had mentioned this during a meeting. So he asked, he was using another platform. He asked that platform, like, hey, what happened with that insurance policy? That platform said, you've never talked about insurance with this person. He asked the same question to Hazel, and Hazel said, you've never talked about it in a meeting, but there is an email where you guys talked about insurance, and the client agreed to getting a new policy. That's the power of Hazel, right? Going through all that context and participating on your meetings, prioritizing your day, helping answer your client communications. That's where it shines.
Amazing. What integrations do we have with Hazel for advisors that might are curious about our integrations? What CRMs, et cetera, can we link with Hazel?
On the CRM side, we integrate with Redtail, Wealthbox, and Salesforce. We also integrate on the workspace side with Google and Microsoft. So advisors can basically connect their Google and Microsoft accounts to log in to Hazel. Also, through Google and Microsoft, we get access to their calendars and also to their respective emails.
Amazing. Gokul, you've been here for a while. What excites you about this product?
I think the biggest thing for me about this product is I think it allows us to supercharge Altruist's mission of making financial advice better, more affordable, and more accessible, because the direction that we're moving in, Hazel is going to be empowering altruists and advisors, more importantly, to do all three, right? Like, we are going to be enabling advisors to make financial advice better by surfacing insights about their investments, about their financial plans that they might not have even been aware of, right? Like, we can find ways to make financial advice more scalable for you, right? Like, from the operational side of things, by allowing you to focus on the parts of your business that allow you to grow, and outsourcing a lot of the operational work to Hazel. So I think the opportunity to supercharge advisor workflows is huge. Also, I think such opportunities come very rarely, like, in the history of technology, where often the underlying core technology doesn't move as fast, but then people are trying to build creative products on top of that technology. So they're really trying to push technology to its limits. And now we have entered a phase where technology is just, surged further by like 10x, 50x. And we're all thinking about what are the most phenomenal, best products that we can build to really push technology, because we are living in a world where now intelligence is commoditized. Just saying that, makes me think, is it even real? Because the previous phase with the internet, knowledge was commoditized. You can look up any fact, you can know anything that needs to be known. With the phase before that, compute was commoditized, right? Calculations are practically free or really cheap for that matter. Now we're entering a phase where intelligence is commoditized. And bring all of that capability to our RIAs, to advisors, is just super exciting in a way that really helps Altruist achieve its mission. Super thrilled to be a part of that journey.
Amazing. Last question for you. Financial advisors looked one way, but with Hazel, it will look like blank. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question. I would say joyful would be the adjective I would use to describe it. I think advisors, as I said before, they're that type of personality that love to connect with their communities. In talking to many of them in the last year, particularly at Future Proof, many of them serve really their communities, their neighborhoods. And that's where one advisor was telling me he serves 3 zip codes that are adjacent within where he lives. And he goes to the farmer's market every Saturday, and he ends up spending a few hours there talking to the folks that he serves. And most of his business, people reach out to him asking for help. And that's how he gets customers. He's not selling anything. People come to him for his services. I think once with Hazel, we are able to remove that burdensome, repetitive work of compliance, the less glamorous part of the job that's really distracting you away from just building those relationships and being helpful to those people. So I think with Hazel, that would be the dream, that we make your job as an advisor much more joyful and much more enjoyable. And yeah, I would say that's it for me.
Amazing, guys. Where do they go to learn more about Hazel and try it out?
Hazel.ai. I think that's where they can learn more about Hazel. They can log into Hazel. And yeah, if there's anything that they need in terms of outreach, they can always reach out to us at support@hazel.ai.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. And thank you guys all for listening. Go to altruist.com/podcast for more. Until next time. Thank you for listening to The Advisor Journey by Altruist. Brokerage-related products and services are provided by Altruist Financial LLC, a member of FINRA/SIPC. Results may vary. Altruist and its affiliates do not provide tax or legal advice.